What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today I am trying a new idea on my channel. I decided to create a series called Bro Science because I know a lot of you guys like to watch my content or listen to my content in the background when you're like running on the treadmill or you're doing a workout or you're cleaning the fucking house or you're at work or driving in the car just trying to pass the time. You guys seem to be interested in my delivery on the way I talk about my prison experiences, you know, just pretty much anything. And so I started thinking, what if I could take this negative term bro science and turn it into a positive? You know, because bro science is usually like bullshit, bad information that gets spread around in the community about how DECA works or trend works or something. And I kind of made a joke on one of my videos recently. I said something like, how many of you in the audience actually know how the sun works? So my brain happens to be this giant fucking wealth of information that that you should have picked up in school, but you probably didn't because you probably didn't really give a fuck. So I started thinking, what if I start explaining some basic life topics in a series called Bro Science, and you guys can kind of veg out and listen to that shit in the background while you're doing otherwise boring shit. You learn something in the process. You know, I've always believed that the reason that school sucks is because teachers suck. Like they don't take information and make it fucking interesting. I remember, like, if you notice in my YouTube videos, I suck ass at math. Like, my math skills are so busted. I don't know why. I had a really high IQ. I did really good in school, but I sucked at math. And I believe the reason for that is because math is boring as shit. Like, they don't make it entertaining. I used to tell my wife all the time, like, if like a bunch of high school kids showed up to fucking high school one day and the teacher was like, okay, we're gonna be doing some boring math skill, you know, and the kids are like, crap. Why don't they do it like, why don't they take math and like apply it to the world that children live in, or that is at least like taboo and entertaining? You know what I mean? Like, if you're in college right now or high school right now or whatever, you just never learned math along the way, rather than like boring ass word problems like Susie has 3 apples and Johnny has 5 apples and Barry stuck one of the apples up his ass, how many apples are left, and you just like already fell asleep. You're probably already checking out just listening to me talk about this because nobody gives a shit about how many apples these 3 people have. But what if you had walked into like fucking, you know, Algebra 2 class and the teacher has said, okay, today folks, what we're gonna do is we're gonna learn how to take a kilogram of cocaine and cut it with baby laxative and then see how we can, what ratio of baby laxative and coke we can get to maximize our profits on the street. Like, that might have been some fucking interesting math, you know? In chemistry class, instead of going over some boring bullshit chemistry that nobody fucking cares about, what if the teacher had been like, today students, we're gonna be cooking crystal. Like, fucking everybody had been wide-eyed and paying attention, you know what I mean? So I thought maybe I could do a series on this channel, give you guys something to fucking veg out in the background to. And if you learn something, you learn something. If you don't, you don't. Who gives a shit? I helped you pass the time a little bit better than whatever boring shit you're having to do, whether it's work or chores or drive in traffic or whatever. And like I said, you know, best case scenario, you'll learn something. Then you'll have something to share to your friends and be like, hey, did you know this or that? You know, maybe I can help you guys get educated on some shit you otherwise wouldn't know. So the other day in one of my videos, I was talking about, I don't even remember why the fuck this came up. I mentioned the sun. And I was like, I wonder how many people in my audience actually know what the sun is. You know, because my daughter's been learning all this shit, and like a lot of people will say that the sun is a big ball of fire. And it's fucking not. It's not even close to a big ball of fire. So today on Bro Science, what we're going to be talking about is what is the sun and how does it work in bro science terms, and why is this even remotely interesting? One of the things that I find remotely interesting about the sun is that despite being really fucking big in the sky and having the power to cook your fucking skin off if you're not careful, it's actually a really fucking long way away from Earth. So the average distance that the sun is at any given time from Earth is 93 million miles. See, so like if you were in science class right now, you already start like doodling on your paper, you're fucking passing out, you're thinking about your girlfriend's pussy, like you don't care, like 93 million miles, what am I supposed to do that? Let's put that into reference. Let's give a frame of reference for how far away 93 million miles is. 93 million miles is so far away from Earth that if the sun was to suddenly go out, if it just ran out of energy and turned off and went black, we wouldn't even find out about it for about 8 minutes. That's about how long it takes for light to travel from the sun to our eyeballs on Earth. So when you look up at the sky and you see the sun, you're seeing what the sun looked like 8 minutes ago. If the sun were to fucking supernova and blow the fuck up right now, we wouldn't even know for 8 minutes. Now, in 8 minutes time, we would be fucked. Like, we would be massively fucked if the sun supernovaed at this given moment. But that's outside the scope of this lesson. So if you want to sound smart around your buddies or the water cooler, and you ask them, hey, do you know what the sun is? And they're like, yeah, it's like a big ball of fire in the sky. No, actually, the sun doesn't burn at all. The sun is a star. It's just a star like any other star in the Milky Way galaxy or most of the universe. And what it actually is a fusion reactor. So the sun has a core that makes up about 25% of its total mass. And inside the core, you have an incredible amount of pressure. And this high pressure area causes atoms of hydrogen to be pressed together with such force that they turn into helium. So the sun's core is a nuclear reactor. It works very similar to how nuclear reactors or nuclear bombs work on planet Earth. There's two types of ways you can build a bomb or you can build a reactor. You can have a fusion reactor which fuses, for example, hydrogen and smashes it together with other hydrogen until it turns into helium. Or you can have a fission reactor where you split an atom apart. You split it apart. Generally what happens is you cleave off an electron, and when the electron is cleaved off of the fucking whatever atom you have, for example, uranium, for example, is really good at doing this, then you have this massive release of what's called atomic energy. And then that proton knocks a proton off the atom next to it, and the next to it, and next to it, and you get this chain reaction of nuclear fission, which is the splitting of atoms. And that's what causes like an atomic bomb, a nuclear bomb blast, is a fission reaction. In the sun, we have what's called a fusion reaction taking place. And so if you want like the science, two protons combine to form a deuterium atom, a positron and a neutrino. A proton and a deuterium atom combine to form a helium-3 atom and a gamma ray, which is where you get the gamma ray bursts from the sun, which is a whole different fucking lesson that we're not even going to concern ourselves with right now. Two helium-3 atoms can be combined to form a helium-4 atom and two protons. These reactions account for 85% of the sun's energy. The remaining 15% comes from the following two reactions, which is a helium-3 atom and a helium-4 atom combining to form beryllium and the gamma ray. The second one is a beryllium-7 atom captures an electron to become lithium-7. and 3 protons, 4 neutrons, and a neutrino are released. And the final option is that lithium-7 combines to a proton to form 2 helium-4 atoms. So you've got all of this nuclear fusion taking place inside the sun's core. And when these processes happen, they release energy in the form of photons, which fucking radiate out from the sun as the visible light that we see that makes everything on Earth possible. So if your buddy tells you that the sun is actually a giant ball of fire, you can use your new bro science lesson to let him know, actually, that's not true. Actually, the sun is a star which has a core, and inside its core is a fusion reactor that fuses hydrogen into helium primarily, and this makes up 85% of all of the energy that is released from the sun, which allows us to exist on this planet. And like I said, when these reactions take place and these photons are released, the sun is so far away from us that it takes somewhere around 8 minutes. I could look up the exact time, but nobody really cares. It's give or take 8 minutes is how long it takes for the light to travel from the sun to the Earth. Now, to close out this class on the sun so that you can look even more intelligent if somebody starts asking you any questions about this, one of the things that's important to understand is that the sun is kind of alive. It has a life cycle. And so, now, admittedly, this life cycle is billions and billions and billions of fucking years long. It doesn't really matter to any of us today because none of the things that are eventually going to happen to it are going to happen for a very long time. But the sun has a finite amount of hydrogen in it. And so right now, due to the massive pressures that are at play and all the chemical reactions that are taking place, the mass of the sun is very large, and so gravity is holding it very tightly together. But what happens is, as it continues to create all these reactions and release all of this energy in the form of heat and protons, then eventually it's going to start basically getting tired. It's going to start running out of energy. It's kind of you in the gym, you know, like you hit the gym, you got a lot of energy and you're fucking slaying your first couple of fucking exercises, and then as the lift goes on, you start kind of fucking tapping out, moving at a little bit slower pace. You don't have the same vigor you had when you started your lift, and that's what's going to happen to the sun. Unfortunately for us, what happens to stars when they start to run out of energy is that they begin to expand. So they go from the state that they're currently in, and they start expanding until they grow generally to about 100 times the size that they started as. And when they and this is called the red giant phase. So basically what happens is a star like the sun, some distant time into the future, 5 billion years or more into the future, the sun will have depleted enough of its energy that it will no longer be able to maintain its size, and it will start swelling until it becomes a red giant. Unfortunately, when this happens, it will incinerate everything in close proximity to it, including the Earth. So if the human animal wants to live forever, if the human animal wants to live longer than 5 billion years, then Elon Musk needs to find a way to get us, well, actually beyond Mars, because Mars is going to be fucked too. We have to get well outside of our planetary system in order to survive into the very distant future, because eventually our sun will swell to the point that it becomes a red giant, at which point it will continue to burn off the remaining energy that it has. And at some point after this, the core will become hot enough to cause the helium to fuse into carbon. And when the helium fuel has exhausted itself, the core will expand and cool, and the upper layers will eject material. Finally, the core will cool into what is called a white dwarf, which is a star that is nearly and then further into a star that is nearly invisible called a black dwarf. None of this ultimately matters because, like I said, we will not survive the stage where the sun swells to becomes a red giant, because it will engulf, it will swell up so big that it will actually engulf Earth completely. So if you're looking for a new project, if you happen to be watching this video and you're happen to be in college trying to come up with a major, astrophysics would be a good one, or try to get a job working for Elon Musk and figure out a new propulsion system to get us off of this planet, because your distant relatives 5 billion years into the future will be catastrophically fucked if they're still here when the sun swells to become a red giant. So there you have it, the science lesson you didn't know you needed, probably don't give a shit about. But there you have it. This is your bro science lesson of the day. The sun is not a ball of fire. It is a hydrogen fusion reactor. It fuses hydrogen into helium, produces photons of light that do all kinds of exciting things on our planet. It is 93 million miles away, and it takes about 8 minutes, give or take, for one single photon to travel from the surface of the sun to the surface of Earth. And you can now impress all of your friends and family with your new scientific knowledge learned right here on Trinity #1's Bro Science. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.